It is time once again to play around the NHL Draft Lottery Simulator to see who might be the team that gets to select Connor Bedard first overall in the 2023 NHL Draft. Plus, after simulating the top 10 picks, we'll conduct a mock draft to see which players they likely select. And that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're conducting an NHL Draft Lottery Simulation based on today's standings. Of course, things change. I usually make a video of this nature, usually every 2 or 3 weeks this time of year, because the standings obviously change, which means the odds for each team changes a little bit. And then obviously, we can run the simulator numerous times, get a different result. It's really more for entertainment, fun purposes, just to see which team wins the sweepstakes to pick first, and then we'll conduct a mock draft just to see where the players might fall based on the simulation. So what we're going to do next is we're going to hop onto the computer. We're going to go to tankathon.com where they have the draft lottery simulation tool. We'll take a quick look at the teams that are most likely in the running, the top 10 teams that have the best chance of winning this. And then from there, we will conduct a simulation. I'll give you the top 10 selections, in my opinion, based on those that particular draft order. And we'll go from there. You can leave your thoughts on who you think she really needs to win this the most, who deserves Connor Bedard the most, and which players you think are going to be good fits with the teams that are going to be selecting higher in the draft. So let's hop onto the computer, and we'll go from there. Okay, so as you can see, we're on tankathon.com right now for the 2023 NHL Draft Lottery Simulator. Here are the teams with the best chances here as of right now. As I record this video on February 22nd, the Anaheim Ducks are the top team with the best odds right now. They're at the bottom of the league, followed by Columbus, Chicago, San Jose, Arizona, Vancouver, Montreal, Philadelphia, St. Louis, and Ottawa. Now, of course, you'll see here, Washington's in 11th place. Teams can only move up a maximum of 10 spots. So obviously, anybody below Washington will not be able to go to first overall if they win the lottery, but they are eligible to still win the lottery and move up those 10 spots. So as you can see, Montreal and Vancouver both have second first-round picks here. Montreal has the first-rounder of the Florida Panthers, and the Vancouver Canucks have the first-rounder of the New York Islanders. Now, that Islanders pick does have a condition on it. I believe they can defer that to next year. So it's not a given that the Canucks will get that pick. Also, the St. Louis Blues have multiple picks as well that they've accumulated, which you can see further down here, but none of those right now are high enough except for their own pick. They have the first rounder of the Dallas Stars and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Chicago has the first rounder of the Tampa Bay Lightning. So there's some other teams there that are not in the lottery, but teams that have multiple first round picks. The Blues very well might even package some of these picks together and end up making a big trade. We'll have to wait and see. But those are the teams right now with your best odds. So let's take a look and simulate to see who is going to select first overall with the, to have that opportunity to land generational talent and franchise-altering player Connor Bedard. Let's take a look. There we have it. The Philadelphia Flyers have won the lottery. They've moved up 7 spots to grab number 1. Connor Bedard to the Flyers would be absolutely huge for them. Like I said, it's going to be huge for any franchise, really. Other teams that are going to be in the mix here are all moving down 1 spot. So the Anaheim Ducks end up picking 2nd. The Jackets are 3rd. The Blackhawks are in 4th. The Sharks will be in 5th. The Coyotes will be 6th. The Canucks will be 7. Montreal 8. St. Louis 9. And Ottawa number 10. So sometimes we do have a team that moves up like that. It's pretty crazy to think about, but we've seen it here in recent years as well. So Philadelphia Flyers are lucky winners. So let's now jump over to the mock draft section of the video, and I'll give you the breakdown of which players I think these teams are going to select. Selecting first overall, we have the Philadelphia Flyers. As I mentioned, no doubt Connor Bedard of the Regina Pats will be the first overall pick in this year's draft. He's a generational talent. He's going to be an immediate help to any franchise, and I presume someday will lead a team to a Stanley Cup and be one of the top players in the NHL. He's got a wicked release, wicked skill. Not an overly big guy, but he is pretty strong for his size. There is so much to like about Connor Bedard. This guy has been selling out junior arenas across the WHL this entire season, and the Regina Pats could have had an absolute haul for this guy to trade him at the junior trade deadline and chose not to, make him a Regina Pat for his remainder of his career and to help sell out all these arenas. So Bedard 100% would go first overall no matter who is picking in this spot. Next up, we have the Anaheim Ducks, the second overall, and they're going to take Adam Fantilli from the University of Michigan. This guy appears to be pretty close to the NHL already as well. He will also, I do believe, be an elite top 6 centerman with the strong potential to be a number 1 center. Now, in Anaheim, having him along with Mason McTavish be the top 2 centers, and then you get Trevor Zegras in there as well, they would have an absolute ridiculous amount of skill down the middle long-term in Anaheim. It'd be crazy to add him to the mix there, but certainly McTavish, Fantilli, Zegras could be a huge part of the future. Fantilli could maybe play another year of college hockey. That wouldn't be shocking if he decides to do that before coming out, but very talented, very skilled elite centerman. At third overall, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and they would take Leo Carlsson. Leo Carlsson, the Swedish player, could be a center, could be most likely trending towards being a center right now to NHL level. 6'3", 194 pounds. Had himself a really good World Junior Championship tournament for the Swedes, coming up clutch with some really big goals. He's putting up some impressive numbers in the SHL as well for his age. Again, another really high-end elite level talent that I'm not sure if he'll go directly to the NHL. I do think it's possible. I think he has the size and strength to handle the NHL game. Obviously, it will be an adjustment period to a North American style of playing, and obviously after playing in Sweden his whole career so far, but Leo Carlsson will be a great pickup here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Fourth overall, we have the Chicago Blackhawks, and I have them selecting Russian player Matvei MItchkov. MItchkov has been a very controversial figure in this draft for some time. At one point, was considered a potential first overall pick. Then his draft stock dropped. His development seemed to stall. There's the Russian factor in there as well. He's under contract in the KHL for, I think it's 3 years, but he's an extremely talented kid. He's putting up some special numbers in the KHL right now. The Blackhawks are expected to go through a long rebuild, so it makes sense that they could wait and pick this guy up to add to their team down the road. He won't have an impact immediately, but could very well be comparable to some of the top Russian players that have come over in the last couple of decades. Selecting fifth overall, we have the San Jose Sharks, and I have them taking American-born centerman Will Smith from the United States National Team Development Program. He's a high riser in this draft, has moved his way up after having a phenomenal year with the USNDP. He's put up 78 points in 41 games with the national U18 team, and then on top of that, another 22 points in 12 games in the USHL. He's committed to going to Boston College next season, so he's going to be at least 1, maybe 2 years away from making the jump to the NHL, but he certainly has decent size, 6 feet tall, 172 pounds, not quite as big as some of the guys ahead of him here, but certainly a player with a high-level skill and projects to be another top 6 centerman. It could be a great find here for the Sharks. At 6 overall, we have the Arizona Coyotes, and I have them selecting Canadian-born player Zach Benson from the Winnipeg Ice in the Western Hockey League. Right now, Benson's listed as 5'10", 159, so certainly needs to add a little bit of muscle, but an extremely talented forward who can play all 3 forward positions. At this point, I'd say he's probably likely to be a winger at the NHL, but if he gets enough strength underneath him, it is quite possible he could still be a center. He's having a big season in Winnipeg, 81 points in 51 games. Appeared earlier for the Canadian U18 team at the Hillica Gretzky tournament, putting up 7 points in 5 games as well. So Benson, an elite level talent, projected to be a very high pick, would be a good choice here for the Arizona Coyotes. Next up, we have the Vancouver Canucks at number 7 overall. I'm selecting from the Moose Jaw Warriors, Braden Yager. Of course, he's a centerman, which the Canucks could certainly use here. And at number 7 overall, I'm not sure they're really going to draft strictly by position, but he will be one of the better centers still on the board. He's listed as 6 feet tall, 165. Obviously, could stand to put a little bit of muscle on that frame. But Yager's a very talented kid so far, putting up 66 points in 56 games for Moose Jaw this year. Another player who appeared in the Hillica Gretzky tournament earlier at the beginning of the year for putting up 9 points in 5 games. I think Auger would be a great fit in Vancouver to add some center depth, some good young talent that projects to be a top 6 type of player there in Vancouver. At number 8 overall, we have the Montreal Canadiens, and I have them taking Czech-born player Edward Shea. Shea, to me, is a tremendous talent. 6'1", 168 here so far, having a pretty good draft-eligible season, putting up a good performance so far between what we've seen in the World Junior Championships, as well as what he's producing over in Czechia. He's having an overall great season. The World Junior, Shea seemed to be all over the ice, certainly was a big impact on his team for sure. Likely projects to be a top 6 right winger right now. Shea, to me, would be a tremendous asset to add into this dynamic group of young Montreal Canadiens forwards that they already have here in the mix. Next up, at 9 overall, we have the St. Louis Blues, and I have them selecting Dalibor Dvorsky. Dvorsky's been a player we've discussed here in these mock drafts numerous times. The Slovakian-born forward could be a real solid two-way centerman. 6'1", 201 pounds. I mean, he has good size and strength here so far, putting up good numbers, playing overseas. Also had a good showing at the World Juniors as well. So certainly a player who I think could be a good fit in St. Louis, especially after the Ryan O'Reilly trade. Somebody who could be a nice add mix here to their young group of forwards. They don't have a ton of high-end talent in St. Louis on the up-and-coming scale, but he could be a nice fit there to go along with them as another top 6 potential. Number 10 overall, we have the Ottawa Senators selecting, and I have them taking Andrew Crystal. Crystal is another player, to me, he's a little bit underrated. He's a player playing in the Western Hockey League for the Kelowna Rockets, a left winger, a little on the small side, 5'10", 165, but extremely skilled, extremely dynamic. Probably gets overshadowed by one of his best friends, Connor Bedard. I think it wasn't for the Bedard leading the way in this draft, then Crystal would get more acknowledgement, I think. But he's putting up phenomenal years. Already has 30 goals and 69 points in 39 Western Hockey League games for Kelowna. Had a solid showing at the Liga Gretzky tournament earlier as well. To me, like I said, he's just a really talented, highly skilled kid that doesn't get nearly enough attention and could be a highly underrated top 10 pick here. But certainly, he'd be a great fit with this young group of Ottawa Senators players that are up and coming right now. So thanks very much for watching all the way through, looking at all my top 10 selections in the simulation. Let me know your thoughts on the outcome. And of course, let me know, like I said before, your thoughts on who should have Connor Bedard, who deserves it the most, what team needs it the most moving forward. And let me know your thoughts on some of these high-end prospects expected to go in the top 10 of the 2023 NHL Draft. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.